Rethink your assumption that the drama around love and hip-hop was finally over. You won't be prepared for what's going to happen, I assure you, since this most recent bombshell has utterly upended the franchise. Two names you would never expect to hear together, Kirk Frost and Kendra Robinson, are at the heart of a huge scandal. The evidence of the alleged covert affair is not only sloppy, but it also has the potential to ruin your career. The shocking disclosures are the result of my actions. Sources claim that after weeks of keeping this information to himself, he is now finally disclosing everything. Do not believe that this is just another story about love and hip-hop. There are secrets that some people would rather not know, and this controversy reveals them. Get your tea, settle in, and prepare for the most dramatic, shocking, and memorable moment in the history of the program. It started off as a typical reunion of hip-hop and love, which required raising one of those tents. Such situations where unsolved concerns tend to surface for the cameras, but nobody could have foreseen how profoundly the night's events would rock the franchise as a whole. Cast and staff noticed a tiny but alarming detail. Kirk Frost arrived separately from his wife, Rashida. In the meantime, Jock and Kendra Robinson showed up together, but something was clearly wrong. Jock typically cracks jokes, but charisma was remarkably silent. Kendra's attitude was even more revealing. Every forced smile and sidelong glance suggested that something wasn't quite right with the production. An unforeseen visitor showed up just as the crew was getting ready to film. N's insiders claimed that he had been sitting on some devastating material for weeks, waiting for the appropriate opportunity to come out. As he stepped into the room, the cast members exchanged anxious looks, knowing that something important was going to happen. Without wasting any time, Em walked over to Kirk, leaned in, and said something that made Kirk's face pale. The cameras started rolling, and the usual reunion drama started when Kirk, according to witnesses, tried to brush it off with a nervous giggle. But I wasn't laughing. The room fell silent, and even the production crew, who weren't usually worried about the cast's antics, seemed enthralled. Arguments from past seasons and repeated betrayals soon took a backseat, but Messi said, "You know what this is about. We need to talk." Although Ems did not immediately disclose all the information, the ramifications were clear. DC's had evidence, not just any evidence, such as receipts, but also explicit text exchanges between Kirk and Kendra that made it difficult to find any innocent. Rashida, who had yet to fully comprehend the extent of the disclosures, remained composed, but was obviously tense due to the fact that she had had enough of Kirk over the years. There was no denying that the language and explanations were replete with promises that could not be construed as platonic, flirting, and late-night meeting arrangements. The Cash App transactions, in addition to the hotel reservations, generated more questions than they addressed, even though they weren't directly incriminating. While some cast members kept silent, understanding that this was a powder keg waiting to happen, others were equally stunned and murmured to each other, trying to piece together what they had heard. She'd always chosen to stand with him and present a united front, even in the face of allegations, suspicions, and even a confirmed affair that produced a kid outside of it. The treachery was certainly detailed this time, though, rather than merely being hinted at in blogs or conjectured upon by fans. There was a noticeable sense of tension as the reunion was being filmed, with everyone waiting for the other shoe to drop, for me to elaborate, for Kirk to refute or validate the accusations, and for Rashida to finally express her opinions. Those who knew the renowned Jock well realized that his silence was a danger sign, but he had not yet been presented with the whole tale. So the production team, conscious of the gravity of the situation, made sure every camera angle was ideal. It was more than just reality TV. Kirk's behavior grew more unpredictable as the evening wore on. He was seen hushedly talking to several crew members, pacing the set, and making phone calls. On the other hand, Kendra avoided practically everyone, even Jockey. She appeared to have lost her normal confidence, and even her closest friends on set subsequently said they had never seen her look so. Am, who was visibly frightened backstage, allegedly held court while having secret conversations with a few key actors. He was clearly not kidding. He had proof that could destroy Kendra and Kirk's reputations. His private conversations left many who spoke with him shaking their heads, whispering that this scandal would be far more widespread than anyone had thought. Kirk once attempted to speak with Mendeecees, either to make amends or to convince him to remain silent. But the encounter was short-lived, and it is evident from several sources that he had no intention of doing so. Kirk refused to ignore this and exited the scene that evening with an even more nervous appearance. As the taping ended, the room was filled with a sense of surprise, fear, and an odd sort of expectation. The story was only getting started, and everyone knew that once the news was made public, there would be more confrontations, more fallout, and more discoveries. After the affair was made public, the franchise would never be the same. Many of the cast members called friends and family right away to tell them what they had witnessed. Rashida has no method of preventing the world from quickly learning everything. The decision was to either support Kirk again or leave for Jockey. It was a moment of reckoning. No drama on TV could ever really capture the depth of the personal betrayal. There were hazy indications in media reports that a big bombshell would be revealed while filming. Blogs and gossip websites began conjecturing about what had transpired, assembling fragments of information from the cast members' mysterious Instagram photos and cryptic tweets about Kirk and Kendra. It became clear as the first chapter of this drama went on that nobody in the room would ever again look at one another in the same way. As the scandal's aftermath deepened, cast members started getting in touch with one another to verify the specifics of what had recently happened on set. Rumors began to circulate like wildfire, with each tale becoming more ludicrous than the one before, and some people asserted that Kirk's claimed a relationship with Kendra, but had kept quiet up until this point. Others maintained that Mendeecees possessed information so damning that it might definitively destroy Kirk and Kendra's careers. Unlike in past scandals, when she had often given Kirk the benefit of the doubt, Rashida confronted Kirk about the claims when she got home. Rashida had finally had enough, and the evidence was beyond dispute. According to others familiar with the situation, Kirk's answers were evasive when Rashida sought the truth. Instead of acknowledging anything, he tried to minimize the evidence, claiming it was all a misunderstanding, but Kirk's seasoned excuse-maker Rashida wasn't buying it. The claim that she told Kirk, "I stood by you through everything," is excessive. This time, Rashida wasn't merely threatening to go. She was ready to take action, so her words held more weight than previously. Unlike past transgressions, the stakes were higher than ever, and this affair threatened not just their personal connection, but also the enterprises they had established. Rashida had already been in touch with her lawyer the next morning to examine her alternatives. When Jock eventually learned the full scope of Kendra's involvement, the consequences were just as severe, and he responded quickly and forcefully. Sources claim that Jock departed the home he shared with Kendra and checked into a hotel after leaving the reunion taping. He then began contacting his attorney, the producers of the show, and close friends to seek guidance on how to proceed. Jock allegedly insisted that Kendra be expelled from Love and Hip Hop because he was unable to let her fail in public. Additionally, he jeopardized his reputation on the show, Because of the terrible publicity the incident was receiving, the producers decided to temporarily remove Kendra from the show while they conducted additional investigation. Meanwhile, pressure was mounting on Kendra from every direction. Despite her calls for explanations from producers, cast members, and even her own family, the harm had already been done. More to the point, there were reports that she was not just with Kirk, but also that she was having an affair with a close friend of someone else. The ramifications were profound, and Kendra's reputation was in shambles. The whistleblower who initiated the entire sequence of events had no remorse. He continued to supply the producers and actors of the program with information, ensuring that the entire tale would finally come to light. He even alluded to having other receipts, but he said nothing about what was in them. Everyone was on edge because they were expecting more bombshells, and as the days went by, the cast became divided into groups, some supporting Rashida's choice to. Rashida began to carefully distance herself from Kirk's financial interests as she prepared to move on. Rashida had considerable power because she was co-owner of Frost Bistro Press Boutique and many real estate endeavors. According to sources, she was collaborating closely with her legal team to make sure that Kirk wasn't publicly humiliated by Kendra, that instead of only leaving with her dignity intact, she would do so with her financial stability solidly established. Kirk's reputation was virtually ruined. His wife and economic empire were in jeopardy, and he was in a downward spiral. In a desperate attempt to repair the harm, he repeatedly apologized to Rashida and pleaded with her to reconsider, but she remained unmoved. The show's creators couldn't overlook this betrayal. It wasn't just another error. Threatened to harm the franchise's reputation, but instead, it generated a never-before-seen level of excitement, making it one of the most talked-about occasions in hip-hop and love history. To take advantage of the instability, the producers teased viewers with dramatic episodes that promised the truth about the betrayal and revelations that would alter everything. This guaranteed that viewers would tune in to witness the entire event. Those close to the jock claimed that he felt deceived and ashamed and wasn't satisfied with letting the show tell his story. Not only was he upset with Kay, but he also began to plot his next move. Kirk betrayed their friendship, which infuriated him. Kirk's actions were extremely professional in addition to being personal. According to sources, the jock even considered suing Kirk for breach of trust and emotional anguish, which may have serious repercussions. Fans flooded Kendra's social media accounts with inquiries, charges, and criticism, making her attempts to repair her reputation largely fruitless. Despite turning off comments on her posts, many people continued to express their disapproval, and Kendra's silence further reinforced her guilt amid the commotion. All they could think about was how far each of them would go to safeguard their interests. Rashida appeared resolved to accept her defeat and go on, while Jock readied himself for a court case that would completely alter his professional trajectory. As Kirk frantically tried to preserve what little he had left, Kendra had to deal with the potential of. After the first revelations, Mendeecees, the catalyst for it all, stood by and watched as the fallout spread like wildfire, paving the way for even more drama. Kendra's public breakdown, Rashida's shrewd tactics, Jock's growing frustration, and Kirk's efforts to contain the damage all pointed to one undeniable fact. The fallout was far from over, and this was only the beginning of what would prove to be the most explosive chapter in hip-hop and love history. Kendra made an effort to maintain a low profile, but there were persistent whispers that she was involved with Kirk and that she might have another secret affair. Every action she took was meticulously monitored, and cryptic remarks from cast members and behind-the-scenes leaks fueled conspiracy theories on social media. Jock, who was still in disbelief at the treachery, had broken off his connection with Kendra and clarified it that he didn't want to be a part of the drama in the future. But according to some close to Jock, he was taking precautions in private to protect his personal interests. That Jock had begun to gather material for a court case that could result in an ugly divorce that was widely reported. Once a valued friend and someone Jock thought of as family, Kendra Kirk was no longer the only target of Jock's wrath. Kirk was now seen as the ultimate betrayer of their friendship and the code they had once shared instead. Private discussions with friends and family caused Jock's annoyance to explode, and he began investigating ways to hold Kirk responsible. For his reputation, some even speculated that Jock would think about suing for damages. In the love and hip-hop circle, the man who initially brought the controversy to light did not back down. Rather, he doubled down, implying that further disclosures might come at any time. Some viewed Mrs. as a troublemaker who had caused turmoil for dramatic effect, while others saw him as a truth-teller who would stop at nothing to speak the truth. Whatever people's opinions of me, one thing was for sure: his disclosures had altered the course of events. The producers of Love and Hip Hop began creating a new plot for the next season because they couldn't ignore the conflict, and they teased viewers with unclear suggestions of disclosures that would change everything. There were rumors that Kirk and Kendra would have to face off on camera, and that Rashida might speak up in a public interview. Producers were even considering doing a spin-off special that would just address the scandal's aftermath, according to several sources. Should this be successful, it would mark the first time the franchise recognized that this was not merely a plot element, but rather a significant turning point in hip-hop and romantic history.